Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my English pronunciation series for Vietnamese speakers. In today's episode, episode 2, we're going to focus on clearly differentiating the S and SH sounds. Although Vietnamese has similar sounds, Vietnamese speakers often struggle to make these two sounds distinct in English, leading to misunderstandings and not being understood. This lesson will provide you with the tools and techniques, as well as drills to practice those in order to help your pronunciation become more clear and distinct. The primary challenge for Vietnamese speakers with S and SH tends to be around clearly distinguishing them from each other. Some common issues are producing the sounds too quietly. These sounds actually need to be a bit louder, especially the SH sound. Another common issue is producing a whistling with the S sound, which makes it more difficult to distinguish from the SH sound. Another common issue is both of these sounds are what we call continuous sounds or continuing sounds. They don't have clear or hard stops. And this is a bit different from many Vietnamese sounds and often results in swallowing or softening both of these sounds to the extent that differentiating them becomes more difficult. So the key here is clearly differentiating the sounds. And that can be done through mechanics. You also need to get used to producing these sounds a bit louder, which can be a challenge for Vietnamese speakers, as you often soften consonants rather than make them louder. But we'll work on making them louder. We'll work on adding stress to them to make them more distinct from each other. One thing to note about the letter S is that it can sometimes take on more of a Z sound. While we're focusing on the S sound here, and not specifically on the different sounds that the S letter can take on, I did want to note that S can also sometimes take on an SH sound, particularly if paired with or followed with the letter U, although that's not always true. As with almost every rule in English, there are exceptions. So as we're focusing on this, I just don't want you to be confused with some of the Z sounds, particularly when we work on the practice sentences. We'll get into more details around the different sounds that consonants can make. But in this lesson, we're going to focus more narrowly on the S sound in particular and the mechanics and making sure that we differentiate that from the SH sound. Okay. So how do we make the S and SH sounds? And in particular, how do we ensure that the sounds we make are distinct or different from each other? So let's talk about the mechanics of how to make these sounds. So the S sound is a more relaxed sound. You need to relax your mouth. Your lips should be slightly parted and relaxed. The key here is relaxed. Tongue position should be close to the upper front teeth, creating a narrow channel for the airflow, but it shouldn't be overly restricted. Airflow should be continuous. There shouldn't be puffs or explosions in the sound. And avoid a sharp whistling sound. You don't want to whistle with the S sound. It should sound like air leaking from a tire. It's not too loud. It's definitely not as loud as the SH sound. So just, again, the key is to relax, constant airflow, no sharp sounds, okay? Now, the SH sound is produced a bit differently. One of the key things to keep in mind is your lip position. You want your lips gently rounded, tongue slightly pulled back and away from your teeth and up against the roof of your mouth, although not touching it, creating a broader, softer airflow, but a more of a sibilant sound, more of a shh. One of the easy ways to make this sound is to, like if you had a brother or sister, or if you have kids, to tell them to shh. Now, it doesn't have to be that hard or harsh, but the sound is similar to shing somebody. So, again, it should be a consistent airflow. Both of these sounds are continuing sounds. They don't have hard stops. So the way you finish softer sounds are you just reduce the sound until the sound stops. It isn't a hard stop. It isn't sh. Don't make it a hard sound. Again, practice on making the sound long and just tailing off at the end. And the rounding of your lips just kind of makes this fuller sound from your mouth. Okay, so the key here is to avoid excessive or whistling in the S due to an overly tight tongue or too much restriction from your lips. Okay? Also, tongue placement is important. Do not try to your tongue should be relaxed. But it is the air passing through the tongue in different positions and the shape of your mouth that allows English speakers to differentiate between the S and the SH. The SH is a bit higher pitched. Also, do not try to swallow the ends and don't try to make them too short. If you make them short, your mouth isn't used to making them. Your mechanics aren't there yet, and it takes a while for your mouth to get into position. So when you try to make them too short, you just don't mechanically produce the sounds clear enough to be able to distinguish them from each other. So relax your tongue, constant airflow. It's a continual sound. So if it's at the end, you just trail the sound off, or you smoothly transition into the next sound. Don't try to stop the sounds. The easy way to do this and to watch is to record yourself and watch yourself record your audio, record video, or practice in front of a mirror. Your lip shape should be distinctly different between the two sounds. Again, the S sound. My lips aren't together. They're relaxed. The sound is coming from my tongue and my teeth, the position of my tongue and my teeth. The SH sound, my lips are more rounded and creates more of a hollow in my mouth that just gives it more of that fuller sound. Okay? It should be a bit louder than the S sound, and that will also help English speakers differentiate between the two. Okay, now let's work on actually practicing and making these sounds. So we're going to practice with 10 minimal pairs. The first word in the two pairs is the S sound, and the second word in the pairs is the SH sound. These minimal pairs are pretty identical in pronunciation, except for the S and the SH sound. So the importance here and what you need to focus on is making sure the first word and the second word sound very different. Okay? If they sound the same, then you're not going to be understood. Again, one key, make the sounds longer. You're still going to be too short, okay? But practice making them longer. It's going to be unnatural. You're not going to want to do it, but to help you practice the mechanics and develop the muscle memory to be able to make these sounds, you need to pronounce them longer. And this will help you as you're training your mouth and your tongue and your lips, but it'll also help you be better understood, because you're going to be unsure. Your mouth and your tongue and your mechanics are going to be unsure, but if you lengthen, you'll eventually get there. And then an English speaker will go, oh, okay, they're using S or they're using SH. We don't actually think that. We can hear it. We weren't trained that necessarily that this or this makes this sound or the mechanics. we just grew up knowing that S and SH made two different sounds because we were corrected when we mispronounced them while we were reading. So let's get into it. 10 minimal pair words. I'll pause in between. I'll say each pair twice the first time to help you understand how to pronounce them. Then I will pause a bit, allow you to stop the recording if you want, practice the sound on your own, and then restart the recording, and I'll pronounce it again so that you can check your pronunciation. So I'll pronounce them at least twice and give you a pause in between to allow you to practice, which you should do. Ideally, again, use your phone and record audio and video and watch your mouth, listen to the sounds. And the key here is just to, both sounds need to be different. Okay? So let's start. The first word pair, sip. Sip. See how I lengthened that S out. And now the second word. Ship. Ship. It's important to get the final consonant on both of the words, even though we're concentrating on the S and SH sounds. So again, the two words should sound differently. All right? Let's try number 2. See. See. And now the second word. She. She. Make sure you get that really strong sh in there, okay? It's important, all right? Word number 3. This has a stopped T sound at the end, so let's work on that as well, making sure that we get a good, clear final consonant. So the first word in pair number 3, seat. Seat. And now the second word. Be careful with this one. It is a long E, not a short I. The word is sheet. Sheet. Make sure you get that long E and a hard T at the end. Okay? Pair number 4. This has an O sound in it. So let's practice that. Sock. Sock. And again, the K sound is a stopped sound at the end, but we can lengthen the S at the beginning and even the vowel if you'd like. So again, overemphasize the S and the SH. And now the second word. Shock. Shock. All right. Now then, the fifth pair has an N, which is more of a continuing sound with a buzz. So we can make these words really, really long if we wanted to. First word. Sun. Sun. Okay. Now the second word. Shun. Really practice on making that first sound long. Shun. Okay? And make sure you get the sh all the way through the SH sound. If you drop it, it starts to sound like an S sound, and then it gets confusing again. So pair number 6. This has a silent GH, but the I is long. So, sigh. Sigh. And the second pair, or the second word in the pair, shy. Shy. You'll notice the Y here takes on a long I sound in English. All right, The next one is one that is commonly confused by many Vietnamese because of we have a V sound in it, which we'll talk about later. But it's very common for Vietnamese speakers to not clearly differentiate the starting S or SH on this next pair. So let's practice pair number 7. Save. Save. And again, elongate that. The V sound is another continuing sound. So we can continue that sound. And it's a good idea to practice that just so that the word sounds more clearly. And again, your mouth, your tongue, your lips are working on developing new habits, new muscle memory. And by elongating those, it's like a runner running, a quarter-mile runner runs 2 miles. Why? To build up their endurance, to get their muscles in shape, to build muscle memory, that even when they're tired, they can continue to run. Same here. You need to build that muscle memory in your mouth, okay? And now the second part of the pair. Shave. Shave. So we'll work on the V and F, who have similar mechanics, but different sounds because of the voice. The V has a voice sound. Again, the voice sound means your vocal cords need to vibrate when you make that sound. All right? Moving on to word number 8. The double L at the ends of words can be a bit challenging, but it's just an L sound, but let's practice it. So, all right, number 8. Sell. Sell. And now the second part of the pair. Shell. Shell. The L is a soft L. Don't try to make it too hard. Again, we'll work on these later. The focus is on the S and the SH, but while we're here, we might as well take a look at it. All right? Now, number 9, sort. Sort. Okay? And now the SH part of the pair. Short. Short. The RT can be a bit of a challenge. We'll work on how to smooth those consonant clusters out in future lessons. We do say both the R and the T, but they're said together. They're not said sort. Okay? So don't insert extra sounds. Make them smooth and together. Again, we'll have an entire set of lessons on consonant clusters. Not because, again, the sounds are difficult. You are used to making most of the sounds, but you're not used to blending them together and making a smooth transition from one consonant to another. So the final pair here, number 10. Soar. Soar. And the second part of the pair. Shore. Shore. You'll notice in pair 7 and pair 10, we have an E at the end of the word. In both of these pairs, the E is not pronounced. It's a silent E. We'll talk a bit about that when we get to vowels. Often it makes the vowel before it long. In the case of number 10, as you saw, though, it does not. We still have more of a short O sound. But the key here is don't try to pronounce E's generally at the ends of words. Obviously, there are a couple of other exceptions here. Number 2, with C and she. Obviously, she has an E at the end, but it is obviously a long E. It's not the only exception, and there are reasons why it's an exception. But just usually, if you see words with E at the end, don't try to pronounce the E. I see a lot of Vietnamese Students, both beginning and intermediate, often trying to pronounce every vowel and every consonant, but the E's, particularly at the ends, are usually, not always, usually not pronounced. All right, now let's work on practicing with the sentences. Again, practicing with the sentences is usually a bit more difficult than pronouncing single words because you're trying to read ahead, you're trying to see the next word and think about how to pronounce it, and you often fall back into your habits through your muscle memory on how to pronounce words, which means you fall back to generally the Vietnamese way, which is great for Vietnamese, but not so good when you're trying to pronounce English words. So I will read each sentence, then I will pause. Feel free to pause the video so that you can practice reading the sentences on the screen. And then I will read the sentence one more time. Okay? Here we go. Sentence number 1. Sue sees a big shoe. One more time. Sue sees a big shoe. Now, it's important to get the S on sees. It often takes on a Z sounding rather than S. We talked about that earlier. But the important part is to get the sound on the end. Don't leave it off. And don't insert sounds where they shouldn't be. It isn't Sue's. If you insert the S, then to come back to a bit of grammar, you've got your verb and your subject out of agreement. And to an English speaker, it just sounds wrong. So it's important to make sure you don't add S's where they don't exist, and that you pronounce the S's, particularly at the ends of words where they're supposed to be. All right? So sentence number 2. The ship is sailing in the sea. So a couple of THs here. Make sure you practice your THs. We've covered that in the previous lesson. Doesn't mean we get to let them slide here. You need to keep practicing. All right? Number 3. I saw Sam sitting in the sand. One more time, number 3. I saw Sam sitting in the sand. Really make those S sounds long. Really practice making them long, getting the sound, your volume up a bit, but not the whistle sound, not the sibilants that we get in the SH sound. All right? Number 4. This is a bit of a tongue twister. She sells socks at the shop. So the key here, one of the key things, get the S's on the ends of the two words that have them. It's important. One more time, number 4. She sells socks at the shop. And you'll notice I really overpronounced the P. We will probably do the B's and P's next. But yeah, so we'll get lots of practice on especially the ending P's and B sounds. But for now, just note that and overemphasize those sounds as we continue to practice. Okay, number 5. The sun is shining on the shell. One more time. The sun is shining on the shell. Okay. Number 6. She felt shy and let out a quiet sigh. Another thing to note, a lot of Vietnamese speakers will raise their tone at the end of every word, which has some other issues. We'll get to intonation after we get through some of the key pronunciation. And in English, we do use rising tones, particularly to denote questions or when we're unsure about something, so that a statement, what would look like a statement, can be spoken as a question and interpreted as a question. But we haven't gotten to that yet. You're better off to, as Vietnamese speakers approaching English, to really try to have a falling tone at the end of every word. It's going to be better received than a rising tone at the end of every word, which, if I'm trying to emphasize or show that I'm unsure or not confident or that I really intend to ask a question, is fine. But when you don't know how to do it, or you just instinctively are rising at the end of every word, it not only sounds a bit odd, it can just get a bit difficult. So try to practice falling or falling off at the end of most words. Okay? A sigh being a good word to fall off on, because sigh sort of reflects the sound for which it makes. Sigh. All right? Moving on to number 7. He decided to shave to save some time. One more time, number 7. He decided to shave to save some time. Now you'll notice the second word here, decided, is a C, but it has an S sound. We'll cover this specifically when we get to consonants, and particularly consonants that make sounds that you may not expect them to make, but that you heard that correct. That is an S sound in the middle of decided. Okay? So your ears weren't deceiving you there. If you heard something and saw the C and wondered why it was an S. Number 8. They sell beautiful shells by the shore. Again, an ending S there, so be careful that you get it in. One more time, number 8. They sell beautiful shells by the shore. Okay? Number 9. We took a short walk to sort out the issue. A couple of things to note here. Walk, the LK may present you some challenges. We'll work on that later. The other thing that may surprise you is the word issue has an SH sound. We haven't gotten into it here, but one of the main words that kind of employs this sound, sugar, S-U-G-A-R. The S-U together can, not always, make an SH sound. For instance, sentence number 1, Sue is an SH, or an SU, but it does not have the SH sound. How do you know? There are probably, again, some complicated rules explaining when and when not to. Your best method of learning it is just to memorize it. To speak the words, listen to the words being spoken, to where it becomes a question of what sounds natural. Okay, I don't remember them saying it like that, so that must not be the way. This is the way I'm supposed to say it. Okay? One more time. Number 9. We took a short walk to sort the issue. Again, there's quite a few sounds. The took, the T-O-O-K, has both a stop sound at the beginning and the end, and the double O is a bit, makes a kind of a sort of a unique sound. Again, we'll get into all of this later. The key is the S's and the SH, and making sure that you're pronouncing them as distinctly as you can as we work through this. Good habits formed now are better than bad habits and perpetuating them and having to fix them later. All right? Number 10. His feet were sore from walking along the shore. Number 10, one more time. His feet were sore from walking along the shore. So that S in his takes on that Z sound that we talked about a bit. It has some voicing, and your vocal cords get a bit involved. So again, if you were wondering why it sounds a bit different, that's why. Not really an S sound, it's more of a Z sound, but it's interesting and important to note the difference there. We'll get more into it later. Okay, great job. Clearly differentiating the S and the SH sounds will help you be better understood when you're speaking English. They'll give you clarity, professionalism, and confidence. Keep practicing, stay focused, record yourself, listen to yourself, watch videos of how your mouth moves, and keep working on it. But at the end of the day, just relax. Sometimes you have to step back, give yourself a chuckle, and don't take it too seriously. This is all in fun. Hopefully we're having a bit of fun as we work through this. And don't forget to like and subscribe so that you get notifications when I publish new pronunciation videos. And we appreciate if you share your thoughts or questions below. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.